Good morning, Year 5. We've now completed our work on holes. I'd just like to say I've really enjoyed reading some of the work that you've sent me. It's been fantastic, so well done, everyone. For the next two lessons, we're going to look at a short film called The Little Shoemaker, or Le Petit Cordonnier, excuse my French accent, to help us to revise our understanding of direct speech and reported speech. Here's an introduction to the short film. In a timeless Parisian street, there is a little shoemaker called Mr. Bott. He makes and sells a special kind of shoe, and business is good. However, the little shoemaker's life is about to change. A new shoe seller is in town, and he will do anything to gain business. Mr. Bott's business starts to fail. How will he cope? Maybe he'll get some help from unexpected quarters. So what I'd like you to do now is to stop this video, and I'd like you to go to the link that's on the slide here and watch the video for yourself. While you're doing this, I'd like you to consider the main events of the short film and what the characters could be saying to each other. When you're ready, move on with the rest of our video here. Okay, so firstly, I'd like you to summarise the sequence of events into 6 to 8 points before moving on to the next slide. For an example of this, your points don't need to be really detailed, just quick notes on what happens and in the correct order. When you're ready, carry on with the teaching video. So, this is the order that I've got them in. The little shoemaker, or the cordonnier, opens up his shop, and whilst he's polishing his shoes, he sees a woman looking through the window at a pair of heels. After that, another shoemaker arrives with a much larger selection of shoes which attract the woman. The little shoemaker cannot compete with the cheaper prices, and the woman buys shoes from the newcomer. The shoemaker spends all night making a new type of shoe, a trainer. In the morning, when he displays this, the other shoemaker changes his display for many trainers. The shoemaker is forlorn and tries to attract customers by putting his shoes on sale. He receives an offer to buy the shoe shop through the letterbox by the other shoemaker, but his shoes convince him to come up with a plan. The next morning, the shoemaker gives the other man the signed piece of paper as well as some golden shoes. Little does the man know that these are magic shoes. When he puts them on, he loses control of his feet and runs away into the distance. The shoemaker tears up the piece of paper. The story ends with the shoemaker polishing his shoes when another shoemaker arrives outside. So, in this lesson, we're going to focus on what might have been said between the two shoemakers. So our learning objective today is to use direct speech to show the conversation. Let's look at this conversation and make some corrections before moving on to the next slide. While I'm reading it to you, have a think. What's missing? Watching the events as they unfolded, the shoemaker called across the street loudly. "Hey, what is going on?" said the shoemaker. "I think you will find, my poor fellow, that my shoes are far superior to yours, and I will be stealing all of your customers," said the arrogant newcomer. "They will much prefer my delicious designs." He smirked as he pointed to his fashionable boots and shoes twinkling through the freshly scrubbed window. "But you can't do that," said the shoemaker, angrily stamping his foot on the cobbled street. Have you spotted what's missing? Yes, it's the direct speech, isn't it, that's missing. The punctuation that we use when anyone is speaking. And if you look carefully here, you can see I've now inserted the speech punctuation, the inverted commas. I've also remembered that I need to use more interesting words than said, and I've replaced said with demanded, replied, and argued. So what I'd like you to do is to spend 2 minutes here just pausing the video to think about our rules for direct speech. How many can you remember? When you're ready, carry on with the video. So these are our rules. Always use inverted commas around what is being said. Use a capital letter at the start of speech. Remember that you must use punctuation before the closing inverted commas. If someone new is speaking, remember to use a new line. Speech ends with either a comma, a full stop, an exclamation mark, or a question mark before the inverted commas. And remember to use those more interesting words for said. So thinking of our synonyms for said. I'd like you to go and practice using direct speech, please, on Education City. I've put on 3 activities for you to do during this lesson. The first one is a learn screen to go back over those rules called Be a Good Sport. The second is an interactive activity where you'll have a go at punctuating sentences. And the third is a worksheet. Both of these are called Pitch Perfect. And when you've completed the worksheet, the answers are on the following slides for you to have a look at. Please remember to mark your work and check where you've made any mistakes to see if you can understand why you've made those mistakes. It's very important to remember, if you start with who is speaking, to put the comma before the inverted commas. So we've already spoken about this, but I was wondering how many synonyms for said you can think of. So I've put some headings here: normally, loudly, angrily, sadly, and other. I'd like you to think up some synonyms for said that could go under each of these headings. For example, we could have sobbed, which would go under sadly. Stop the video and get down as many of the synonyms as you can think of before moving on to the next slide. And here are some examples that I've thought of, particularly things like pronounced, professed, growled, murmured, shrieked, commented, divulged. This is much better high quality vocabulary than actually just using the word said. I'm sure you could probably add lots more to my list here. So your task today. For bronze, I'd like you to write a conversation between the 2 shoemakers using direct speech. Ensure you've added all of the punctuation you need and use synonyms for said. Refer to the rules for speech slide to be able to do this. Silver, exactly the same as bronze, but I'd also like you to add some additional information to your speech to move the action on. Here's an example from the one I used earlier. They will much prefer my delicious designs. He smirked as he pointed to his fashionable boots and shoes twinkling through the freshly scrubbed window. So that's what we're looking for silver. And for gold, obviously you need to complete bronze and silver, but also we would be looking for high quality vocabulary and high quality punctuation, colons, semicolons, dashes, and brackets. Now, if you do all of that, there is, of course, a challenge. And your challenge is to vary your sentence structures to make your writing even more interesting. So remember to use those fronted subordinate clauses and the embedded subordinate clauses. Remember, you can also begin your sentences with really interesting adjectives too. When you've completed that, I'd like you just to take a little time to reflect. What are you most pleased about? That's the end of our lesson today. Hope you've enjoyed it. Speak to you soon. Bye-bye.